Do you like ritualists? Do you like glaives? Do you like being destructive? If you do, this is the build for you. So destructive was glaive is a common nuke build that has different variants, and generally speaking, it is ritualist's version of running in as a caster and nuking everything really quickly before you die. Similar to like a Starburst Ellie or to that blood nuke build that I went over in a previous video. And essentially what you do is you hold some ashes, and then you drop them, and that's it. And then you do a bunch of other things too, and depending on how much damage you want, you can really scale it up if you have enough of these combo pieces. So generally, you hold the ashes, you can make a destruction if you want, you can siphon from that destruction, and then you can run in, you can summon a spirit, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this, you can do that. You can drop it again, and then it kills everything that's near you, doing a shit ton of damage in a short period of time, more or less killing entire groups of enemies in hard mode. So what are the pros and cons of this build? Well, the big pro is that you have a ton of area damage, as well as nearby damage. You also inflict blind, you have a little bit of an adjacent nuke, you can run the Sun Spear skill intensity, which requires you to have a secondary of Ellie, to deal 70% of whatever elemental damage you deal to all other foes in the area. And one cool thing that's nice about intensity is, let's say you did your big spike, you killed a huge group of enemies, and there's just a small group left. If you have a glaive on, you can pop intensity, and then hit something with channeled strike for 170 if they're 60 armor, and then all other foes in the area take 118. So this intensity glaive channeled strike poke is huge value for when the fight is kind of winding down and you need to just contribute to killing the remaining enemies, like assuming the bulk of the enemies are dead. But it also gives you like a super poke that you can open the fight with if you want before you run in. So like, let's say most of the enemy is marshals and they're going to run in anyways. You can open the fight with a channeled strike poke before they aggro, and then once they run in, then you can like recast glaive, hit Ancestor's Rage, you know, precast destruction and nuke it and so on. Destruction is nice, but you do have to kind of know how to play around it. So we'll kind of go over that really quick. Generally, you want destruction to be alive for 6 to 7 seconds. And if it's alive for longer, that's fine. But generally, it's going to hit full damage at like 8 seconds or less. And the idea is you use Rupture Soul, which does 128 lightning damage, plus the 150 armor ignoring damage of destruction. And then if you drop glaive and recast it and then drop it again, you're doing like 500 to 600 damage in area / nearby. And it's just an absolutely insane spike. And also intensity can be used with Ancestor's Rage, it can be used with glaive, and it can be used with Rupture. So you can use intensity on anything but the destruction damage, because it has to be elemental damage. So all of your lightning damage sources will be fine. Let's test this glaive business. So first we're going to cast glaive, and then we're going to cast destruction because it's cool. And we can get Spirit Siphon to work off of the soul twisting spirits from other writs. So if your destruction is down or you've already siphoned it, kill it and then siphon, and then you can recast it or whatever you need to do. All right, so what we're going to do, very simply, just do one of these. All right, he's already dead. He's already way dead. Just drop that. Siphon some energy, drop it again. Alright, right now we're not really doing that much damage because it's just 2 enemies, and obviously this is a big AoE build, so most of the damage is going to be coming from AoE. So one thing we can do is that super poke I mentioned earlier. Let's do that for fun. We did a decent chunk of damage there. Alright, we'll bring in the big guns. Alright, just like that. Then siphon an ST Spirit. I'm about to die, gotta watch out. Just nuke that really quick. Siphon another ST Spirit. It didn't die for a while, unfortunately. We can do this, just intensity that. Kinda hug this writ. Cast that, cast glaive. Do one of these because it's funny. Recast glaive, this. Drop. I whoops, accidentally blew up a... I meant to cast destruction there. My bad. I got him with this. There we go. We're dealing new damage. We're 40% team damage right now. The Mesmers aren't ruined, and one of them doesn't have a staff, so assume they would be doing a little bit better than they are. The reason these characters aren't ruined is I changed my heroes recently, and also right now Ecto is crashing, so I don't want to sell my Ectos until it goes back up, because otherwise I'm going to waste like a ton of equity, you know? Ecto equity, we'll call it. Ecto equity. So let's not waste our cash. Start wanding this guy because it's funny. Wand him. So really, we just want to save our combo for big things, but obviously you can castle stuff, you can Spirit Siphon to get energy. So we precast Glaive, precast Destruction, get energy immediately. And if we want, we can do one of these. Get a big nuke off, and then we can kind of run in. And then of course we can drop. Another thing that's nice too is you can do one of these. This is why Channeled Strike is nice, because instead of having to run all the way out there, I can just start Channeled Strike poking for pretty good damage every 4 seconds. So like on your way over, if you want to like still contribute, especially if you have Intensity available, that's why I like this addition to the build. And then of course you can siphon from ST Spirits, which is huge value. We can drop a Destruction if we want. Siphon that. One thing you have to be careful though, or be careful about, be careful of, or whatever, is you have to make sure you don't take too much time. Because if you're running Mesmers and enemies are dying kind of fast, very likely you should just switch to Channeled Strike Intensity nuke mode and then glaive things that run up to you. Otherwise, you might be too slow to kill things. But obviously, if you're doing like Winds of Change or very difficult content, that's not going to be a problem because Winds of Change enemies just keep coming. And then we use Summon Spirits to bring our Destruction with us. So no matter where it's at, as long as we bring it with us, you know, we cast this, we'll bring it with us for a huge nuke. And then you can pre-cast Intensity so that it's like coming back. So you can do like one of these. Get Intensity going, and then you want to let Destruction live for a little bit before you blow it up. And then you can do one of these, drop, siphon from a distant spirit, do an Intensity nuke off of just glaive, which is totally fine. Sometimes that's all you have available. I could die to this Ellie boss, it's extremely dangerous, so... Oh, I didn't get to nuke my thing there. We can bring it over. Looks like it's attacking me, so... Let's kind of hang out with these. Usually it'll follow you because it's Starburst, but we'll see. Alright, we killed the Ellie boss. We're doing okay, though. Alright. Let's go to switch weapons there. I don't think I have block picks on this character. I do! I got Oni daggers. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know you could get Oni daggers from that chest. Oh, I guess there's Shirokin, so it makes sense. Alright, so overall, with this build, depending on what's on your team and how many enemies are balled up and so on, you can deal huge damage. But the nice thing about Glaive and Destruction is its area damage, which is the largest radius in the game. So outside of earshot damage, which I think only Agony does that. So there's like one thing in the game that does earshot damage. It's not really that good anyways. But area damage is huge, as you can see. Oh, it doesn't really show it. It shows it when there's enemies, but it doesn't show it when there's not, unfortunately. But it's a pretty huge radius that usually will hit entire groups of enemies, even if they're kind of spaced out. So it's more consistent damage. Now, E-Surge is nearby, which is also a good range, a good radius. So depending on what you want, you know, this may or may not be better than E-Surge in most situations. But obviously, Glaive has huge nuke potential because you can completely burst down large groups of enemies. So for that reason, I do tend to favor it over things like E-Surge. Like if I just set up a glaive combo, I can completely kill a group of enemies by myself, which is huge value if there's several groups of enemies, which is usually the case in elite content or in things like Winds of Change. So, alright, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.